Welcome,
Yes.
Daniel.
Valerio.
The website and pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about the band, this new album, Swagger and Stroll Down and the Rabbit Hole. That's a curious name to put on an album. So
Yeah.
and other things around the metal world. So with this start with this question, how was your approach to the metal scene, and why did you include different kind of elements in your music, of into the music of Diablo Swing Orchestra? Cause I can find experimental parts, progressive, tap dancer things like in the second album, and things related to this stuff.
Oh, you don't mean specifically for this album. You
No,
mean in
no.
general.
Yes, yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, the thing is that when we write songs, they have a tendency to start out quite normal because I mean we always focus on rhythms, basic rhythms and melodies, and as you said, the other elements to incorporate within the sound that normally comes later. And it's kind of an idea to keep it fresh for us because we like. I think a lot of musicians do. They like a lot of different kinds of music, but they prefer to stick to maybe more. They go deeper in one genre, and for us, it's more fun to have different songs, and we try to pay homage to those genres we're using. We don't want to use it as a gimmick or just for fun. We actually want to try to learn something from playing them and make it them our interpretation of them. So it's kind of to stay interested in writing music. That's I think that's one of the main reasons why we've done incorporated so many different kind of elements into the metal music. Since we love metal music as well, but we also quite fond of other stuff.
Okay, okay. My first approach with Diablo Swing Orchestra was the song "A Tap Dancer Dilemma." At that
Mhm.
time, I said, "Amazing song," and I need to hear all album. After that, the sound and mix in that album was amazing for me. Then the next albums continue with the sound. So then the band presents, as I told, more albums that capture my attention with your unique form to do music, because it's very difficult to say I hear in the past a band like Diablo Sweeney Orchestra. It's very difficult to say that. So when do you think a new album or song, do you try to expand your music beyond the sound achieved? Or what do you do have in mind to include more elements, more instruments, more textures? That's the way of the Diablo Swing Orchestra. Because until now, for me, it's difficult to label the band in one genre or one style. Some people say that's avant-garde metal, but if we try to relate all sounds, for it doesn't, if doesn't avant-garde metal, it's more metal with a lot of influence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the avant-garde metal is kind of I get the label if you look at the band or the discography as a whole because it's metal involved in a lot of the songs and there's a lot of different other elements. But if you look into one particular song and then you look into the avant-garde metal genre, so to say, then our music is really easy listening in comparison because there's a lot of dissonance going on and quite harsh vocals. We're way more melodic than most of those bands, I would say. And our approach to songwriting is, I know we've been pinned from a lot of people trying to be different just for the sake of it, but honestly, that's not the case. We're trying to write music that we like, and we try to, as I said, stay interested in what we're doing. Because if we would do one thing or one genre, this band would get bored with writing. I can assure you. So it's for us, and also to present this what you can do with music without. That's at least what I think we've achieved. That we don't sound that strange once you get into it and you accept that, okay, this band is not going to sound the same in the next song. It's going to sound something different. And once you're accustomed to that, I think a lot of people also outside of the metal community, so to say, find the band that has some attraction to the band because of, okay, this is melodic, this is danceable, this is fun. So I think that we notice it as well online. There's a lot of people showing that through their grandmas and kids and stuff, and they're all dancing to it. So yeah, it's music for the kids and elderly. That's a good summary of it.
One question that's inevitable at this point: do you compose this new album during this pandemic, or was it before? because during the lockdowns, this kind of stuff, many bands has more time to improve their record, to also to do more things into the studio. And perhaps do you have some troubles to record this new album with the lockdowns? You can with the quarantines, this kind of stuff around the world.
Yeah, it was a mixture of feelings regarding the pandemic because some of the songs we started before in the autumn of 2019, I think was a lot of the foundations were laid out, which songs we would use for the album, and we started in November with some pre-production of 2019, and then in I guess February, March, somewhere in 2020, when the pandemic hit, that's when we were supposed to do some more pre-production, but we couldn't do that because that's right when it hit, and we went into not in Sweden as much as a lockdown, but still, it didn't feel right to meet up then. So we didn't meet for the rehearsals and stuff before the album. So we had to create all the backing tracks for the recordings on our own, and instead of meeting up and trying the songs out. And I would say that hurt the I wouldn't say quality, but the preparation of the album, I would say. But since once we started recording, since the lockdown was not as heavy in Sweden as maybe almost the rest of the world, we could actually travel to down in Gothenburg in Sweden. I live in Stockholm. So I traveled down there, and I could spend a lot more time because the original deadline for the album was no problem pushing it, because I mean there was no point in releasing it in the autumn when we couldn't tour anyway. So okay, we said let's stretch this out, and the time we lost in pre-production we took within the during the recordings instead. And we recorded for, if you include the mix, it was like 13 months or something like that, and that's the longest we ever worked on an album before. So it's a little bit of both.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, Sweden always has an unprecedented bands. Since the 80s, well, since the 70s, has different kind of to explore more things into the music. If we talk with the from ABBA, from Europe, then death metal, then black metal, so this kind of stuff, and now we have other kind of bands like Call of Luna. There's very different than other bands in the world, and Diablo Swing Orchestra is another band that's very different than the band of the world. So why in Sweden the bands keep pushing the limits into the music, well, into the metal music?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of different explanations for the. I mean, if you compare the overall population of Sweden in comparison to how many bands we've put out over the years, I would say it's quite impressive. But I think that one of the main reasons that's always brought up is something like it's called kommunala musikskolan, which means that the government made sure that there would be rehearsal space and that kids could go and learn instruments, and they fixed so there were the conditions for people to start out and try out music was quite good. And that in combination with the bad weather, since I mean it's dark here half of the year basically, and that's two of the, like the main reasons that it's always brought up. But I also think that since a lot of bands have actually made it in the world and in the music business from coming from Sweden, I think it's just as within sports or anything like that, that you get a role model to say, okay, if they can do it, I can do it as well.
Mm.
And a community starts with bands trying out, and of course we've been blessed with a lot of good studios and technicians I mean, I guess that's how our country steers, because we have this success in the, as you said, in the 70s and in the 80s and 90s with bands. It's kind of paved the way, and I think a lot of Swedes, in terms musicians in Sweden, feel that there is no limit. I mean, when we started out, there was nothing strange when we went to Mexico to play, or South America or US, because that's been done before from other Swedes.
Yep.
And since there is a community that kind of shows the way, even if you're not directly involved in all the communities, you've seen that there are, I mean, you can find good music stores. There are relatively cheap rehearsal space and so on. So it's, yeah, I would say that the history helps of all the new bands becomes a little bit more fearless of what we can do.
One thing that you said is that that remind me when I talk with other bands in Swedish, especially with
Hmm.
At Gates, well, Eon, this kind of black and death metal styles. So
Yeah,
they told me that Sweden is a country like, as you said, 6 months of dark,
yeah,
the weather, very hard weather. So, but this kind of people told me that the music there is that's why the music is very melodic, very darker, and sometimes there's some people try to explain like that. But when I hear Diablo Swing Orchestra, it's more happy. It's more like user
yeah,
danceable. It's danceable. It's not
yeah,
reflect
yeah.
not reflect perhaps not reflect the culture of the weather in the music, because as I said, when I hear the first song, a tap dancer dilemma,
Yeah, yeah,
I need to, so I need to go to to dancer tap because I like the music.
yeah, yeah,
That's the feel that when I hear. So when I hear the last single, when I hear
yeah.
this the same. Oh, why I like it. So why?
Yeah, I think that it's for us, since I mean we're definitely not just coming from a metal background. It's, I mean, we the swing era with Django Reinhardt and all of that crew, it was huge for me. And I know that Pontus has been a lot to electronic music and dance and psytrance and stuff. So our backgrounds, I think it just shines through that that's the music we like, and we like metal, and that's. But the good thing about metal for me is that the aggression you can put out of it, you can emphasize rhythms in such a cool and nice way. But for me, a lot of metal bands or metal in general can be a little bit, how should I say it,
Traditional?
stale. No, I mean, no, they go out so aggressive. They go out from the first song to the 11th song on an album. It's so full force the whole time that after maybe the third or fourth song, I'm getting like, whew, okay, it's. I mean, you already pushed. You're in. You spiked it already. There's no room for dynamics.
Yeah.
You can, of course, you can slow it down or something like that. But aggression, for me, aggression is good when it comes out in bursts, like what I think reflects in life. Sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're happy, sometimes well, all these kind of different kind of feelings. And I want to incorporate that into the music as well. And I mean, I guess that's just how we lead our lives. We're happy sometimes, most of the time, I would say. And then, of course, sometimes we have aggressive parts because that's what we like as well. But we would, as I said before, we would be bored if we would only play that kind of music.
Hmm. Okay. Well, other things about the cover arts in the music, I try always. I've been curious about the since the cover of sings alone songs for the Damned and Delirious, then the next album Pandora's Piñata, then Pacifist Cuffs, then this new Strugger and the Stroll Down the Rabbit Hole. I try to relate like a fan, like because you have I put a lot of colors there. Perhaps these albums have a history, perhaps a book, like as you said in the previous answers, like the dreams, like the child dreams, like a child dream. So perhaps it's something like that because I see many figures that remind me my childhood with the,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the why. So perhaps these albums represents concept albums with childhoods. Who knows? No?
Yeah, but I think it's a good remark because for me, my strongest memories of music will always be the music I listened to in my childhood, and I think that I've stolen the most melodies or hooks from children's music the most because I find that they are so simple and so good and so well, relatable or easy to remember, I would say, that I find that kind of straightforwardness in music also really appealing. because what I can still sing. I even know the lyrics from all the music I used to listen to as a kid. If I would do that for the music I listened to 2 years ago, I have no clue, because I also listen in a different way. I was so open to everything. I was so like a sponge, taking it all in. And I think that shows in the music, because I wanna keep that naive feeling of, as you said earlier, with almost danceable, happy, and stuff like that, and just naive as a kid. I think that's a good thing to put into the music, because I think it resonates with a lot of people, and thinking of times, from the past. It doesn't matter if you're old now or if you're a kid. I think that kind of simplistic approach to music appeals to a lot of people, and to me as well.
No. Ah, I lost the
So,
connection. I lost the connection in
well,
the final part.
oh, which part? Let me
When
know.
you talk about the memories are more remarkable, or more remarkable in the childhood than when you are
Yeah,
old.
yeah, exactly. I can repeat that. Just saying that it's when how I listened to music as a kid was that I find the really simplistic hooks from the music that's really rememberable and easy to remember, and more straightforward. And we try to incorporate that into our music as well. That it's the happy sound of our childhood is a good thing to, but it can also be scary stuff. So I think that even this album now with it's coming out, Swagger and Stroll, it's even more apparent that it's so much influences coming from our childhood and the music we used to listen to as a kid or kids.
Okay, okay. So now we will talk about a little of this new album. What are your future plans for this Swagger and Stroll Down and Rabbit Hole?
Yeah, for the first time, we actually are more in sync with the videos for the singles. That's been a problem in the past, because we put out videos like I think almost 2 years after the album comes out, so that's not really a good thing. So now we have videos coming out for the singles, which is really nice. And we hope to release something for each song. Well, not a full video, of course, but at least to put something out, like a theme or something like that, to put out on YouTube, so you can view all the music like that. And the idea is to start touring. Well, the album comes out in November, the beginning of November. The digital release is in the November, 2nd of November, and the physical CD will come out on the 5th. And then the vinyl will be released in March, I think, due to the fact that there are so long waiting lines for the pressing plants. And then we're supposed to start touring, if it's possible. Then you never know, but at least that's the plan, in Scandinavia in January. Then we will go to Russia and Mexico, I think, during March and beginning of April. And the end of April, it's a full-blown European tour. So that's the plan for now. And then festivals, of course, in the summer.
Okay, okay, okay. So I see during your whole career since 2003 that Diablo Swing Orchestra never played here a gig here in South America. So what are the problems or matters that Diablo Swing Orchestra never played here in Latin America, or perhaps in South America?
Yeah, we did play there once in 2012. We played well, we were supposed to play it first in Venezuela, but that didn't happen due to customs. And then Colombia, Brazil, and
Okay.
Argentina were the gigs we had there in 2012. But that's the only time we've been there.
Mm. Okay, I try to find information in Google, but I can see it. But it's okay. So now you are here. How was the reception of Diablo Swing Orchestra in South America? Because the people here love to dance a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, which country do you live in?
Peru.
Okay, okay. We never played in Peru, no. But the thing is that we did play in the first, as as I said, in Venezuela the customs didn't let us in, so we were deported to Colombia, and the gig in Bogota there was completely insane. they tore down the place, and they were up on stage, and I in this there's it's so high up, and I completely lost my breath. I was about to faint during the gig, and it was the same, and Brazil as well. I mean, it was crazy, that tour. It was. I mean, we didn't know what to expect because it was the first time there. I don't remember if everything was sold out, but it was completely packed in all the places, which was awesome. We were really happy with that tour, and we've been wanting to come back since then, but it's been really hard with planning. As you said, since we only went there once. But hopefully, when this pandemic thing will lift a little bit, we can come back for a full tour, because I've seen some bands planning it as well now. So maybe we'll go for the autumn of 2022 then, if possible.
Okay, okay. So one question is about when relating to this, the last album, whether you decide to release this Swagger and Stroll Down at the Rabbit Hole during this, well, during the end of this pandemic, and not perhaps the next year with a better promotion, with a more gigs, with a more tours. So
Yeah, the thing is that since it has been done since May now, it's also a thing for the band to keep going, because when you're in the promotional cycle of it, you still have the problems of, okay, now we're promoting this album, we also want to start with the next album, because since we do have maybe 10 or 11, not songs I would say, but at least ideas, and some of them are songs, that we don't want to wait another 4 or 5 years, because the album cycles for us, the last two albums now, well, this included, has been kind of long. So we're really gonna try, at least. I'm not gonna promise anything, but we're gonna try to keep with 3 years now, that we can release a new album in 3 years. So that's why we want to push this out, and then hopefully the pandemic will be at least allowing us to tour as we want, and then we record a new album instead, since you have enough songs for it.
okay, okay, okay. So one thing that I need to ask is about the, perhaps do you hear about this subject synesthesia?
No,
No,
what was
yeah,
that?
synesthesia is the concept that when a person, when a human listen the music, feels or smells the music, smells, see the colors, tastes the music, in the flavors. So if we try to relate this last album, Swagger and Stroll Down to the Rabbit Hole, with this kind of sensations and synesthesia, what kind of smells and flavors and textures will find the listeners in this album?
Um,
That's very difficult one. I know.
yeah, I'm thinking. I would say that those sensation of a really crowded bar, with a lot of people sweaty dancing, and it's loud music, and I mean that adrenaline things, that your senses are heightened, that you,
Okay,
you, you
okay.
feel more with smells and taste. So I would say like a sweaty bar. I would think that would be,
Okay.
but in a nice way. I'm not saying it in a disgusting way, but more as, energetic. A smell that would be the equivalent of energetic. If I can't really come up with a better metaphor for it, but something like that, like energy in a concentrated form, I would say.
Okay, okay. Until here, we spoke about the band. We spoke about the in general the whole history of the band with the cover art. This new a little more with this new album, and now we will focus, as I said in the first question, that with other matters into the metal scene. So, into the matter of how an underground band and conventional band what should be considered, there are patterns that are more vinyl, and cassette production sticks to this underground metal concept. And the CD, according to the fans, so only expand the collections. So what do you think are the factors for the fans to stick to this underground metal concept? And where is located the digital platforms? Because I have to do this question, because if we compare to the 80s and 90s, the tape trading was the only method to change music, to interchange music with the different countries of the world. But now is the digital platforms. But where is located the digital platforms now? Is in an underground format, or perhaps it is a mainstream format? Because for many people, the mainstream thinks that is only for the digital and not for the underground?
Yeah, I mean, I've discussed this matter a lot of times in both interviews and with fellow musicians, and I think that a lot, at least for bands like us, I mean, I would consider us kind of an underground band per se, but thanks to this digital era, I mean, we've been able to travel the world and getting our music across that I don't think would have been possible at all in because the music, as we talked about earlier, when you describe it, if you say that it is like avant-garde and it's metal, it sounds just hard to get into to begin with. And since it's so easy to people to actually, okay, I'll check it out and then just listen to it on whatever streaming platform or your of your choice. I think that thanks to this new era, I think that there's a much more blurred line between, as you said, mainstream or underground, because we're all available just as easy. Because of course, with for us as well, we have the problems in a lot of countries in the world that we don't have distribution that works as well, and it's hard to find the CDs or the vinyls. But still, I mean, due to the fact that we're available online, I would say that the success of this band, at least, is completely in thanks to the digital era and the availability that comes with it.
Mm, okay. But with this new generation, with digital platforms, the new the people from 15 or 20 years old, they love to do the playlist with one, two, three, or maximum four songs into the digital platforms, and they don't want to listen all album. So I don't know why.
Yeah.
But for me it's different. But what do you think about the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 80s and 90s? And what does band needs to do to improve or to encourage the listeners of all songs in an albums?
Yeah, actually, we talked about this. This is purely unintentional from us, but we discussed this during the production of this album. That even though we never set out to be like that, this album, or even more than maybe the other albums, but since our songs are so different from each other, we're actually quite. I mean, we do. We. I mean, we're from the same age. I mean, I'm 43 today, so I'm used to listening to albums as well. But we try to produce an album as such, but since the songs are so different, they can different people, I think, with this album at least, will listen to maybe two of the songs will be someone's favorite, and two other songs will be someone else's favorite, and then there's the kind of music consumer like we're talking about, like they listen to the whole albums and appreciate it in a different way, like the whole concept of it. So I think we're quite well suited for it, for us at least as a band. I think it's a sad thing that I think a lot of songs never get the chance because you scroll through Spotify and you check out the top 5 or top 10 or whatever, and then you miss out those goodies on the album that maybe comes later, like song number 9 or 10, that you never check it out because you're bored with this with with the artist long before that. So I would say that for us, we're fine with this playlist generation coming up because I think our albums or our music is suited for them. But still, I think it's a sad thing that a lot of songs are missed. I'm sure some of ours are as well because of it. But I think we've adapted, and I think a lot of other musicians are doing that as well, just thinking differently. Maybe they just focus on the singles, or I don't know. But I personally, I don't mind.
Mm. Okay, if you recommend perhaps for one for new listeners, which are the best way perhaps the tape, perhaps the CD, or perhaps the digital. I know every people has different kinds of hearing music, but if you have the opportunity to talk with a hard dive fan, which format do you recommend to listen the new album?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend either CD or vinyl because of course, the quality. I mean, I've noticed that on this album, if you compare Spotify to Tidal, is a huge difference
Yeah.
because the encoding of the title is way better. I think the version of Spotify is not as good. So of course I would never recommend in terms of if you want the full experience. Of course you would get the song. I mean you can hear what it sounds like, but I think that especially guitars on this new song, the single we put out, was suffering a little bit from the encoding on Spotify and on YouTube as well. But so of course I would recommend the masters as close as possible to the finished masters we did because there's so much going on in the music, and if you listen to it in a lower bit rate, it will the quality will suffer. There's no getting around that, so to say.
Okay, okay. Well, Daniel, the sad times are right by this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did, and thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much for your time. Really, really appreciate it for your time because as I said, Diablo Singer Orchestra blow my mind in the second album with Tap Dance Dilemma. Now I'm a huge fan of the band. I hope to get the promo digital soon. So congratulations for the new album and take care during this pandemic situation. I hope the best. I wish the best for the band and for all the staff of Metallerium. We wish the best for all this new album. I hope come see and sorry can come here to do a tour here in Latin America,
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah,
Peru. So I hope
yeah, that would be great.
any last
Thank
words.
you so much.
Any last words for your fans here in Latin America? Metallerium. Big readers.
Yes, I would. I would love to get the whole band over there, and I hope we can. They can always bug their local promoters, and we will do our best from our end to be able to come over as well as soon as possible.
Okay. Okay.